Now that we have a deeper understanding of how pervasive violence is at each level of our social ecology, let's take a deeper look at the different types of violence that occur at all of these levels. CDC has focused its efforts on 5 key areas of violence, which we'll explore briefly in this lesson. For more detail on each of these areas, be sure to check out the prevention pages on veto violence. The first key area of violence we'll examine is child abuse and neglect, which is defined as any act or series of acts of commission or omission by a parent or other caregiver that results in harm, potential for harm, or threat of harm to a child. Different types of child abuse and neglect include physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. From time to time, you may hear child abuse and neglect referred to as child maltreatment.
Every time a child is mistreated, their ability to be productive citizens is also diminished, and that hurts us all. Every time a child is harmed, it's just one less person that may be the next scientist, the next doctor, the next engineer, someone who's going to come up with a new innovation. We're really robbing ourselves of our future.
The 5 most common parental misconceptions that lead to abuse and neglect: unrealistic expectations on the part of the parent, a lack of empathy for a child's situation, a vested belief in the power of punishment, a need for power and control over the child, or parent-child role reversal, where the parent sees the child's position in their life as one of nurturing the parent rather than the parent's need to nurture the child.
It shouldn't hurt to be a child, and we should work very hard to provide parents the support they need so they can do what they really want to do for their child, and that's care for them.
The second type of violence, intimate partner violence, includes physical violence, sexual violence, psychological aggression, and stalking by a current or former partner or spouse. It can also include threats of violence. Intimate partner violence can occur among heterosexual or same-sex couples and can occur even if the relationship does not include sexual intimacy. Intimate partner violence that happens when people first begin dating, usually in their teen years, is often referred to as teen dating violence.
Intimate partner violence, a very common form of maltreatment of usually adults, where you have not only physical abuse and inflicted abuse, but also stalking, sexual assault, isolation, deprivation, emotional abuse, all by a person who is, wants to be, or was an intimate partner to the potential victim.
Every time one of these incidents plays out, the consequences for all involved, the individual all the way to the community, are limitless.
We don't have a lot of good information on protective factors. There's a little out there. But we can't just kind of sit idly by. We need to, at least for now, go with what we know and create programs based, on that.
The third type of violence is sexual violence, which is defined as a sexual act committed against someone without that person's freely given consent. These acts can be physical, psychological, or verbal, and can include contact or non-contact sexual abuse, as well as completed or attempted sex acts.
Sexual violence is a type of violence which is even more hidden. People are more reluctant to talk about than some of the other forms of violence that we deal with.
We never really know how often it happens, because to find out if it happens, a survivor has to be willing to disclose that it has happened. Some of the short-term consequences after being sexually assaulted include symptoms that are often described as acute stress disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder. Includes intense fear, anxiety, an exaggerated startle response where the least little thing and you'll just jump out of your skin, feelings of irritability, anger, shame, and a lot of second guessing. What did I do? A lot of self-blame, a lot of self-doubt. And over time, that can really wear on survivors, and they can have a lot of difficulty in their regular day-to-day life, difficulty concentrating, difficulty in school. Their interpersonal relationships can become very strained, both with their friendships as well as their sexual relationships with their partners. We know that alcohol is associated with sexual assaults, particularly in college campuses. Is the message then, don't drink? No, the message is don't rape.
A fourth type of violence is self-directed, such as suicidal thoughts, attempts, or the taking of one's own life. Suicide can have lasting harmful effects on families, friends, communities, and society.
Suicide is an intentional form of violence with self-harm as an expected and intended outcome. It's the intent to harm oneself to end life.
Suicidal behaviors in and of themselves. If you've thought about suicide and you're planning to attempt suicide or have attempted before, that's the biggest risk factor.
Having a family, having support, having friends that care about you are protective factors.
Being connected to your community is a protective factor and one we should be focusing on, especially in light of those rural-urban issues.
The fifth type of violence is youth violence, which typically involves young people between the ages of 10 and 24 years, harming peers and others whom they may or may not know well. A young person can be involved with youth violence as a victim, offender, or witness.
When we talk about youth violence, we typically refer to the age group between 10 and 24. So children, adolescents, and young adults. Youth violence includes bullying, gang violence. It includes violence that's tied to an argument about a girlfriend, an argument about drugs, arguments about money. It includes violence that's more instrumental, that is violence that's perpetrated as part of a robbery, for example.
The specific behaviors range from kicking, shoving, pushing, to actually using weapons to harm another person.
You can't focus on the broader issues of health and development and getting a good education and a job if your neighborhood is characterized by a lot of violence.
You have to both reduce risk factors and promote resilience or protective factors.
Now that we've talked about the types of violence that occur in our homes, schools, and communities, let's take a moment to review this information before shifting our attention to prevention.